evening. Go back to the top of my agenda. All right, we will call our meeting to order at 18:08 with a flag salute. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. You broke it. All right. Do I have any amendments to the agenda this evening from the board?
Shh. Heather, you're
I
laughing
do
out
hear
loud.
some noise, but I don't think those are amendments to the agenda. So we'll go ahead and move into our consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda? All right, there's a motion by Jamie to approve as presented. A second? All right, there's a second. Any discussion? Laura, if we do a roll call vote, please.
Roll call.
Roll call vote.
Sorry.
No.
Yes.
Russ.
Yes.
Yes. All right, do we have any patron comments this evening? Nothing for the board. So we were gonna jump right into reports this evening with yours first for the superintendent report.
Big thing is I submitted the COPS grant. Right now, the grant is for approximately $331,000. We should know by fall if we get it. The COPS grant included the school-wide intercom system, new exterior doors, and automatic closing and locking systems. This is a safety grant through the Department of Justice. So that's the big thing. Dawn and I are going to present with the Giggies, the construction stuff. That was a majority of what the new business was. I wanted to give you guys the end year results for the iReady. So this is for the whole district. We're getting there. We're not all the way there, but you can see there was a lot of growth. This year was a huge shift for everybody that we're looking at data and using it. Next year, during our evaluations, Mr. Rothenberg, Mrs. Shunk, and I talked to teachers about what the data showed. So that's the overall district data. And then as you can see, they are jumping in with facilities and maintenance. Like right now, Keenan actually has completely redone a door with windows, and he's doing another one at this point. And so they are just going away. And so remember that the building is closed June 24th through August 9th. The Giggies will talk about construction when they get here, but we are ramping up. We in fact had conversations about where the crane's going to be next week and how we're getting it into the building and into the ground. So that is pretty much my report in a nutshell. And then I wanted to make sure that we recognize our 8 seniors at graduation. That was posted on Facebook. So I wanted to put that in the board packet for public record.
Any questions? All right, let's go to regular attendees.
We ended the year at 61.85%. And I will tell you, I wouldn't be surprised if that is kind of the average across the state. Our goal next year really is to increase that. To say we're going to jump right to 80%. No, we're going to look at increasing it to about 70. And so, like I said, I've talked to other districts and they're like, we're looking at like 55 to 60%. So I do think we're kind of in that range. Still doesn't make it spectacular, but we're going to work on it. And that's going to be a huge goal for us next year.
All right. Anything you need from us on that at this point? Okay. K through 6.
Laura, did you upload my brick and mortar principal report because it's not showing? It was just I uploaded and I'm not sure if she hasn't just pressed public view, but so for my brick and mortar principal report, I put on our school-wide iReady data. I recognized both the May and June students of the month. May was for excellence and June was for sincere. And then just a few fun things that we did at the end of the year. Again, we're looking at our data and we're creating a plan of how to address some deficiencies that we see overall. Big thing is the early literacy. How are we going to really emphasize early literacy and ensuring that we are implementing our curriculum with fidelity, and just how do we supplement to make sure that we get what we need to get. And so, yeah, Laura, was it on there? Okay, so we'll move on.
K through 5 learn at home principal report.
Hi, everyone. I am coming to you from Portland, and I have 3 wonderful staff members from LC with me. We are doing a week-long training with probably one of the biggest gurus worldwide for excellent teaching practices. That's Anita Archer. So right now we have Brittany, and we have Chelsea, and we have Mr. Pearson here. So excuse me for the laughing during that. I thought I was on mute. I apologize. So we had a long day of training. So I added into my report that we had our end of year graduation ceremonies. We had wonderful end of year assembly honoring all of the hard work. And then also, like Krista mentioned about iReady, really recognizing our data and then what we're planning on doing moving forward, and the comprehensive kind of attack plan for that. And that's where we're at. I'm trying to keep this short and sweet for everybody. Do you have any questions? Okay, thank you. And I just want to say, I just want to say thank you for giving us, the district giving all of us the opportunity to attend this amazing conference. So thank you.
Thank you.
Laura, check your email.
Okay.
No, I sent you one.
Okay, 7 through 12 principal report, Mr. Rothenberger.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good. Hey, welcome. I'll make it quick and sweet. We had a great June, actually. We started off with senior banquet, and it was very nice. Mrs. Ellis did a tremendous job, and all the students involved, with a guest speaker by the name of Kristen Neerot. She did a decent job on that one. Then we moved into graduation, and we moved back into the gym, and it was sweaty, put it that way, but well attended, and the kids were great. I guess I should say before that, they also went on their senior trip, and Kayla and Keenan took them on a senior trip, and they had a blast. And they went to the Sisters Rodeo one night. Thank goodness they weren't there on the one night when the bull got loose. But they did have a great trip, and they were very appreciative. When they got home, they were pretty grumpy. They didn't really want to decorate the gym. So that might be something we work on, but it was good. Then the following Tuesday, we had a all sports awards for spring sports, followed by pizza, track seasons, and high school baseball seasons, middle school and high school track, well attended. It was great to see that. And then we followed it by 6th, 7th, and 8th grade awards and promotion evening. And the teachers were there and presented awards in each subject, and then attendance awards. And it was great. And followed by root beer floats. You can't go wrong with root beer floats. And then it was good into the school. Teachers worked hard, students worked hard to get their grades up, actually, towards the end, which was awesome. And then sports are in full swing. Ricky's doing some summer basketball, joining up with Monroe. Joe has been doing summer basketball with the boys, heading into Springfield and North Eugene, some of those schools, and hosting at home a couple of evenings. And so everything's in full swing. Larry's going to be opening the weight room here shortly and get the boys buff and LC. And then I think I'm out. I think that's everything I have for this evening. I just want to say, as most of you know, I took a job in Junction City, and I am going to be very sad to leave LC. LC will be definitely a part of me. It's been an amazing 2 years, and I appreciate the support from everybody. It's been very, very fun and very enjoyable. Any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Oh, go ahead, Jamie.
Thank you, Bart, and I'm so happy for you to be where your heart belongs. So congratulations to you.
Thank you, Jamie.
Yes, I will second that. You've done great things and built back great connections for our district. So thank you. And we can't wait to keep those growing and going. And thank you.
Just know you're in great hands with Krista, but also know that I am not far away, and anything you need help with, I will be right there to help in any way possible. And I assume your district tournaments will still be at Junction City, and so I will be there hosting them for you.
Yeah, I expect those nets up on time for volleyball.
And you want to host a basketball tournament for us here?
Yes.
Well, real quick, I just want to recognize actually two people. Mr. Rothenberger, thank you for your 2 years at Alcy. We appreciate you. And we also have a retirement. Jan Olson is retiring, I believe, after 28 years in the district. And they will be sorely missed, but we wish them well on their next adventures. So
Thank you.
Thank you all.
All right, into our financial report, Mr. Staley.
We're closing the.
Thank you. Forgot to remind you, sorry.
Yeah, you know me by now. Going over it quick, I presented in the packet the revenues roughly the same where I was last time, but I gave you the state school support, and I know there's been concern or questions why some districts have gone in the deficit and they find it out in May or June. You've read about Silverton and Newburgh and all those. I personally, and for Krista and the district, I monitor where our expenditures are, and I monitor what the state school support formula is all the time, working with the state. And I keep a spreadsheet from the years, and I know how it works. And so roughly that's how the state pays you based on this formula. And so it's like an advance payment, but your audit is your final one. And then they adjust everything there. I have no control over the percent changing. I assume it's going to stay the same. But you'll notice here right now, we're about $4,000 difference from where the state is on 23-24. And remember last month, I told you we got another 300 some thousand. That's because of the ADM and the percents and all that. They let the reserves out. And so in this year, there's still a reserve. And so hopefully we'll get more money at the end of the year. But I wanted to at least share, I think 95% of the district's business manager monitor the same way I do. So it's always surprising when they find out they're in the hole at that time. So, but anyway, going back, I want you to go to page 4. At the end, the expenditures, what we budgeted was 6.7 million carryover, and we're going to be using $1.2 million of that. Right now, we're at 6.7 on the dot, but we've ran all the payrolls and everything, and it's about, it'll be close to that, between 6.5 or 6.7. But we're getting near the end of the year, and all payrolls have been processed as of today. So this is feel comfortable. And if you go to the next page, the special revenues, Krista and I have gone over all the special revenues. A lot of them end on September. Planning how to expend those dollars to make sure we don't lose any. And so the balances there are accurate, and most of them go through September. So I don't know if you have any questions on any of those. I know Chris and Nancy have monitoring the bond, and we're in agreement. We reconcile every month. So with that said, the financial statements are really the same as you've received during the budget process and last month. Questions? What I did provide in here is the food service again, so you know where we are. I'm just going to keep hitting you on that.
Thank you.
Because it's something that this district needs to plan for, how to make the self-sufficient one within the district. Okay.
Thank you for keeping that in front of our eyes so we don't also.
won't
I
let it go.
appreciate that.
It'll be there every month.
Well, I mean, it's good to just make sure that we
Yeah.
have it. So it's,
I just keep reminding Krista and everybody all the time.
yes, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Right. Do we have the Giggies on the phone? I see another phone on there.
I
so-
don't know if that's them or not. I text them, Lori.
They wanted the agenda and they're planning on coming 7.
Okay.
I sent him a message just now saying.
Did they not know that we
I'm here.
started?
I'm here. I'm here. I'm here.
There you go.
Who is that?
That's Bart.
Bart, that's not you, man.
Oh,
We went.
We want Chris and Nancy.
Ah.
oh, I'm sorry. Gosh darn it! I was getting excited to talk again.
Oh my god.
We bet you were.
I will go through it. Pretty much
Okay.
we're on schedule. We're maybe 3 days behind, but not really. I mean, you can see like the walls are going up.
That's beautiful.
And so, you know, there's their reports, the budget summary, like Don said, they're pretty even, if not, we're about 117 in contingency right now.
I would say between 95 to 100.
Yes, and so
Okay.
we are using some of the contingency for, because there are things that are popping up, but it's very minor things that are popping up. It's like, so for example, we had to put in because we're not gonna have power for those 2 to 3 weeks, so it's like $7,000 for a generator. But I think in general, it's been going well. I'm very impressed with, I'm actually very impressed with the construction company and their, communications, and Chris and Nancy are doing a great job. So, yeah, it's going, every time I drive past it, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's an actual building. So,
Even within 2 days, it's changed.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Is that generator going to be able to like power after the construction or something? Or is it just a temporary loan generator?
I think it's a temporary problem. Yes,
Just curious.
we're working on the other. Yep, so.
Any question on the bond?
It's just great to see that building going up.
Yes.
I mean,
All right, let's talk about enrollment really quick.
gonna be our board's claim to fame, you guys. You know.
Laura, is that you? Sorry.
No, that
Oh, okay, sorry.
The enrollment is there. We ended a little bit lower than we wanted to, but I'm gonna tell you, I think that we're starting to have, people are starting to see what we are, right? You're not just you just don't send kids out here because it's the last chance to. And so, you know, we are working on numbers. We are looking at, learn at home numbers. Heather has made up a flyer. We're sending them to all of our homeschool students. We have a contract. We're setting up a contract through Eagle Point, that if Eagle Point students, there are some issues and they can't be in the classrooms, that they'll bring them to us and we'll get their ADM for that. I think right now we have 3 students. We're working with Central Lynn and perhaps Monroe about trying to get their homeschool students. And so we'll do something with the ADM, and if they enroll at Learn at Home, we'll get something like 80% of the ADM and they'll get 20. Just trying to get kids back into the system. And I think ours, Heather went to a conference where I think we actually fill a niche that's not out there. And so we're just working on getting that up. We're working on getting that up in brick and mortar as well. But, you know, there is going to be a point, and I'm going to let it, you know, to everybody, there is going to be a point where with numbers like this, we want to get them up between 275 and 300, but things are going to look a little different because we can't afford what we've done in the past. And so, you know, numbers are important, but we are going to have to start prioritizing and deciding what we want things to look like, because we're not going to have as much money as we have in the past. I believe next year we're going to be funded on, I just saw the new updated, it's like 417, which this year we were funded on 640. So we, you know, right there is over $200 or 200 ADMW drop. And so, you know, there are decisions that the board is going to have to make. And that's just kind of how it is. You know, we are going to have to use what we have. We're going to have to be very creative, but we can't do what we've always done because we no longer have the money for it. So.
Want to make sure that somebody's watching the budget is developed on forward.
So I'll just repeat that for the recording, that the budget was created off of the lower ADMW, not the higher end of the ADMW. Thank you. Okay, any questions on enrollment or any of that? All right, let's move to safety. Sounds like we have none. Thank you. Thank you for the update in the board books. All right, let's jump into new business. We have WHA Insurance here to present to us. And you guys have some handouts in here. So if you want to join us at the table. Oh. Thank you. Thank you. Absolutely, please come up and, yeah.
Can you turn on the
Could you turn on the
microphone?
mic also? I'm gonna start getting him a lapel mic.
All right, first, I'm gonna make this brief. I work with Kristen Nelson. It's really difficult. I have a Krista and a Kristen. So when you type emails, you have to make sure you have the right person. Kristen is with WHA. She's been a valuable resource to us, to me, and she's been here with the district for a while. I just want to tell you this last year was my first year here at ALC, and went through everything with Kristen, all the equipment, all the vehicles, got everything organized, and asked her a million questions on things. And she's also, just for your information, because you know I can talk, for your information, during the audit, they made a comment about fidelity bonds on myself and Bren, because we do all the handling of the money and due to the there, and that was one of their comments, and they wanted the board to be involved in that level. So I have asked Kristen to give us what the basic is that's part of our policy, and then options and the cost associated with it. And I don't look good in black and white, but the cost associated with adding on different levels. And so I will pass it off to you.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Dawn. As Dawn said, I work with WHA Insurance, and our corporate office is in Eugene. Owned and ran insurance agency. We will never sell and be a big national agency. So as long as you're with us, we'll be in Oregon and you'll have us as a resource. As Dawn said, we work together very closely. Able to just call my desk line and get to me right away. So if you have any questions, let Dawn know and he'll get those back to me. Specialize in working with school districts, public entities, and special districts. So we kind of have a two program for that business. And I apologize, I will be going through this rather briefly as it is a lot of pages. So feel free to stop me or write down the questions and we can get to them later if needed. The first page is just the proposal summary. So it's a list of the different coverages you have and then the associated premiums. And then we'll go through page by page and we'll kind of briefly go through what each of those means. So you'll see our liability is on the first page. Your educator's liability coverage. This is essentially general liability coverage and professional liability coverage. It covers the board, all teachers and staff, volunteers, and agents of the school district. You do have a $20 million limit. If you flip the page there, you'll see there's two carriers that we work with to come up with that $20 million. And then there's some additional coverages that are sublimited within there. And then next we have our auto. We have 15 million in auto liability coverage. And as Dawn stated, you'll see as you flip the page, you have the automobile schedule, and we have been working on keeping that updated throughout the year. It's something that we go through each year at renewal, as well as throughout the year, to make sure everything's up to date at all times and you're not paying more than you should be or undercovered anywhere. As you flip through after the auto listings, you'll see that we have the property coverage proposal. On the left, you see the property values that are scheduled, and then the most important number here is that 11,762,899. That is your total property coverage limit. So if a building were to have a total loss, you have up to 11,762,899 to restore the building or rebuild it. And that's for any one building. So it's basically a blanketed limit for all property. So even though it includes each one of your properties as a whole, the whole limit could be used for one if needed. There's also some additional coverages as you flip through the pages there with the property. One of the ones that usually gets asked about is the unscheduled outdoor property. And there's a $250,000 limit on that. So that covers signs, fences, playground equipment that isn't otherwise included in that property limit. So if you haven't let us know, we built this really fancy fence, that would fall under that $250,000. And then on the next couple of pages, we have our equipment breakdown and machinery coverage. That covers any sudden or accidental damage of equipment. So like if an HVAC system, let's say a tree fell on something and it caused the HVAC system to go down, that would fall under that coverage. And I wanted to bring up, there was a claim from the ice storm that included spoilage, and you see that that is a covered sublimit there. However, because it was the grid and not something that happened on the property suddenly or accidentally, that falls outside of that coverage. And then we have on the next page, our crime coverage. And that's what Dawn had mentioned just a bit ago. So you have a $500,000 limit. This is a government crime policy, and it meets the statutes required to cover public funds. So this is basically the insurance policy for your funds in the bank. So right now you have 500,000, and that has an associated premium of $1,491. We did get some quotes. First, there is optional increase in limits through PACE. 750,000 would be roughly $2,205, and $1 million would be $3,570 if you wanted to look at increasing those. And then we did get some quotes for individual bonds. So this would just cover one person, a limit of 200,000 with a 3-year prepaid discount would be 1,750. So where there's an advantage to using the policy within PACE is that it covers everyone under that 500,000 limit. So if there was a bad actor and they, stole money, everyone would be covered under that versus the individual. And it exceeds with the coverage it offers, it exceeds what an individual bond would do. Just for informational purposes, I know that, like Dawn had said, the auditors had asked for a much higher limit. And I can tell you that no other school districts that we've worked with go outside of the PACE limits. So think that covers that. And then the next page is school violent acts coverage. This is also just added in with your package. And you have 50,000 in coverage there. That is in the event of a violent act. You would have up to 50,000 for counseling, cleanup, anything like that that was needed. The trigger there is the school would have to be closed for 48 hours, business hours, essentially. Then we have our property schedules. Once again, Dawn and I have worked on this and made sure everything's accurate. Feel free to, go through those and let me know if you have any questions. And then on the last page of that is the scheduled equipment. So we have just looks like a tractor, a mower, and a scissor lift on there. And then we have our cyber. Cyber is also through PACE. We did look at a outside cyber policy and got a quote for that, but Don let me know that we're gonna go with the PACE policy, which is great, and most of the districts that we work with do just use the PACE policy. Then we have our rate comparison. We had a 1% rate increase year over year, which is great. A lot of I think PACE had estimated 13 to 15%. So 1% is definitely amazing. And then we have our workers' compensation. You're performing really well there. They use an experience rating, and it's basically how they calculate their rate is off of how many claims you've had and the amount of the claims. Your experience rating has gone down. It went from 1.13 to 1.07 and resulted in a 5% decrease in premium. Hopefully I didn't speak too fast. Had a lot to cover, so.
On those quotes you gave for the current coverage, are those in addition to the 1491, or is that included in lieu of 14?
In lieu of, so yeah, it would,
So
that would be the total premium at those levels. And if you did, we're at the 500,000 right now, and if you did want to increase it, I would just need to know before the 7/1 renewal so we could get it on this policy.
And that's the next thing on the new business, is to talk about that.
Said none of the other districts you guys insure go above the current amount. Is that what you stated?
They typically just use this the bond policy, the crime policy, but some of them, there's various limits depending on, and it's up to the board to decide what the limit is.
I get just a question. So that it seems, you said that almost no school district goes above it, where you said that up to 1 million. Because in the back of my mind, I'm thinking like, if someone's gonna take it, wouldn't they take it all? Like,
Yeah,
does anybody ever, I mean, it doesn't seem to ever happen.
right. Yeah.
But if like someone took it all, like what's 1 million?
The only people that take it all take 300 million. Sorry.
I mean, yeah,
Done.
I think
Right.
Add to this,
Yeah.
From an auditor standpoint.
Come on, come
within an
You gotta
auditor
come up, you have to come up here.
Come on so we can hear you.
Turn that on. Oh, it's on.
It is already on.
I was audited one place that did, and it is the city of West Lynn, where she received the bank statements. She changed the bank statements. She took copies of the bank statements and did the bank reconciliations and had nobody sign. So it comes down to your internal controls, check and balances.
Right.
Everything that Bren does, I check, Krista checks. She does everything I do, Krista checks. So it comes down to your internal controls, what you have in the district and the trust that you have in there. And the smaller the district is, the more you have to look at because you don't have all the people to do everything. So
Right.
there's that more one person but a bigger district, you have more check and balances. So I did present the procedures to you. And that was covering all those areas that touch cash and who checks what. And the auditor, another thing is districts are audited annually. So hopefully it's caught when they audit.
Right.
And they follow those procedures that we give them, and they're gonna make sure that we are doing what we're saying, or we'll get another comment. So I think that's why you're not hearing much of it, because there's more use of technology and check and balances.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. And yeah,
Any other questions?
So I have a question on the property replacement, or what exclusions are there? I mean, does that include earthquake? Does that include, I know we're not in a flood zone, but if,
Portion of our property.
well, a lot of times earthquakes excluded, so I'm just curious if,
I think that there is, I need to double check, but I believe that there is a sub-limit for earthquake damage. Let me get back to you on that. 'cause I
because we're
wanna
gonna
check
have
on that
one
with
sometime
Pace.
in the near future. Probably not in the
Yeah,
next year,
And
but
yeah, and so, and then with that, like, that's something that we talk about with our districts all the time because we're in a self-insured pool.
right,
So basically, once if there was the big one, you know, it would likely affect, most of the state. And then we would, everything in the pool would be used up by
Right,
everyone
right.
and. we
well, I don't
would
even mean the
go
big
to
one,
FEMA.
but you never know.
Yeah,
This is an old building. It
Yeah.
wouldn't take a big one to do a lot of
Right.
damage.
right.
That's
yeah.
why we're trying to get the size.
That's why we're in
Yeah.
the seismic.
The only reason I
Yeah.
ask is we're pushing for this seismic grant, but you know, all of our windows would shatter with like a 4.5, right? They're old, it's just old
Right.
glass. The other question I had is, where does that replacement value come from on the total loss? Is that, I looked at the values you have on the
Mhm.
buildings, but just looking at what it costs us to build the CTE building now,
Yeah,
do we really believe we could replace all these buildings for $11 million? Like, I'm not sure we could. If there was a total loss, like
right, of all
a
buildings.
tornado we never have
Yeah,
here
yeah.
wiped out the whole property.
Right,
Or a fire that just spread really fast, because that would happen with
Yeah.
the amount of response time we have from Philomath. I mean, our one little fire truck wouldn't put out this building, right? If it caught
Right.
on fire.
So your properties are appraised at least every 5 years. It's required, by Pace. So they send someone out every 5 years. And also on top of that, we can adjust the values when you ask to do it.
Right.
That's something that we can change as needed. So we get the appraisals. However, it's also just up to your discretion.
And the new like construction cost increase at 5 million or whatever that is that allocated over the total, or is that just kind of like a percentage of what your loss is, or?
I
Yeah.
believe it's allocated over the total. Yeah.
Sorry.
That's okay. No.
I mean,
Those
I've
are good
been
questions.
in situations with insurance, and so I understand how surprised you can be when there's a loss at what isn't covered, and
Yeah.
that's, you know, that's my curiosity. I carry really great coverage on my
Mhm.
personal insurance with
Right.
an umbrella policy. Most people don't even do that,
Yeah.
but I've also had a huge loss,
Yeah.
right? So you learn after you have a huge loss
Right.
what to expect. And I
Right.
think the school probably has we have had a minor tree damage. But like we're building this brand new building, which I would imagine is really going to increase the value of our property.
Yeah.
The new electrical, which is hard to appreciate the value, but it's so expensive to
Right.
reduce. So I'm just thinking like we might need to revisit that with an appraisal this next year after the completion of the CTE building to kind of look at our future expectations
Yeah.
of property.
Yeah,
Replacement.
absolutely. And that's something that we, like I said, it's something that we can change at any time. It's something that we can keep in the discussion as the building's being built.
the appraisal came out last year. So every 5 years, we can
Yeah.
have it come out, but the new building is not in this.
Right.
So
Right.
this is just the existing building.
Right.
The new building would be added when it's completed.
Well, it was listed in there, the CTE building at like 1.9, which it's costing more than that to build. But my concern mostly too is we're putting in new gym floor, new windows, new doors,
Mhm.
the fence, right? We've added value
Yes.
since that appraisal.
Yeah.
And we're gonna continue, like, if we put in a bunch of new windows, right, it's just, well, if you look at it like a home, right, it just keeps increasing the value of your home, adding value.
Right. Right.
I'm a big, listen, I just gotta be honest, I'm a big proponent of being overinsured, not underinsured,
Mhm.
because we don't have the funds. It's easier to
Right.
pay 10,000 more a year in insurance than it is to recover another $1 million in
Right.
loss.
Agreed. And so
Absolutely.
after that, we could have another appraiser and adjust it at that
Mhm.
time.
Yeah.
Do it
I
that
think
way.
that would be a good idea with
Yeah.
all the
I agree.
improvements we're doing.
Before the start of the school year, this will be done, the HVAC will be done.
Right, and the HVAC, which we've never had.
And the
Right.
floor will be done, so, and the doors and windows, so at that time, you can just schedule and have it and
Yeah.
reappraised and then bring that back to the board, what the value is, and then go from there.
Yeah. I think that's a great idea. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then follow up with the earthquake seismic. I mean, I'm only
Yes,
curious
I
because
will.
sometimes it covers just a percentage.
Mhm.
Or sometimes there's a huge deductible. I lived in Florida, just so you know, full transparency, 8 years. Hurricane wiped out most of our town. Amazing what was not covered, right?
Yeah.
And people had to go to the federal government, and that is a
Mhm.
nightmare.
Right.
So I want to personally, I'm going to live here the rest of my life. I have kids in the school. I want to make sure that our school is still here to educate our kids
Yeah.
and not a rubble.
absolutely. Yes, I will definitely check on that.
Okay.
and Get that answer back
And
to
just
you.
one thing, not part of that, but you saw the bus list there. that
Yes.
Includes all the buses at WLA.
Yes.
Okay, yeah,
Well,
that's because that's a
before that,
hefty policy there.
And they pay for their percent on that there.
Okay.
So, and there's gonna be 2 new buses going on here in September. So we monitor that closely.
I mean, is bodily injury at 500,000 enough on a school bus? Like, I'm just curious, because I mean, I'm asking because I had a daughter that was killed 2 years ago in a car accident, and their policy was 50,000. Mine was 300, right? It wasn't about the money, but I can imagine if there's a bus accident, what the parents would do if there's a loss or an injury. Is 500,000 enough for 30 kids on a bus, or 20, whatever it
Yeah.
is? I mean, we're breaking it down to, I mean, as a parent, my daughter was at school when it happened. You get highly emotional about, right, liability.
Yeah.
This didn't involve the school, but I'm just saying,
Yeah.
like, we drive these roads with these buses, and it's,
Yeah.
I bet you it'll never be the bus driver's fault, right?
Right.
It'll be a log truck, or it'll be a drunk person. But if it happens, I'm worried 500,000 would not be enough for 20 kids or
Yeah,
whatever it is,
That's
15.
something that we can look at.
We might want to bump that to like 1 million or 2.
Okay. Yeah, we can look at that.
Or work.
I mean,
No.
No, that's their great.
I just look, I mean, listen, going through it firsthand, a funeral is $20,000.
Look at things a little differently.
Yeah, and if a parent is in a dire strait where they're, much less if the kid's injured and in the hospital for a long period of time, could be even more, right?
You just have to read the paper a few times and see suits.
Yeah,
that are
yeah,
separate
I mean-
certain things. So, as a board.
I just think 500 is a low number for bodily injury per accident, because you could have 25 plus the people who hit you in the accident, and that's exhausted and
Right.
at 20,000 a kid, right? Like, that's really quick.
Right.
Less than an air evac if someone had to be air evac, right? Like,
Yeah.
And most anything that happens over here.
is air evac, yeah.
What would
So-
be nice is that we had all this information prior to the start of school.
Absolutely, no, yeah, you know what?
Get a
Don't mind me, I'm not trying to push anything.
No, no.
No, I
I'm
think
like I said, I'm a proponent of being overinsured, not underinsured. I'm your best advocate.
this-
But I think as a school board, right, we do live in a very rural district with
Yeah.
a lot of anomalies. Sometimes this year, the weather changed in the middle of the morning, right, with the ice, snow.
Mhm.
You just don't know what'll happen,
Right.
you know?
So
Yeah.
we'll bring that back
Good for that.
prior to. Prior.
Okay, and that's all I
start of
had,
School.
like, in my review.
And I'll
Thank
just,
you.
then we'll schedule the appraiser and everything, and we'll get this all done.
It's perfect. Thank you so much for spending the time to come educate us tonight. Oh, yes.
I
go for
have
it.
a question.
Yeah.
So about the cyber
Your turn.
extortion
Mhm.
coverage.
Uh.
First of all, like, it looks like $200,000 is the limit. So this is like when someone locks your data and then demands money in return for unlocking it.
Yes.
So my
That's the
question
answer.
is this number based on like a mean of what gets asked for from schools, or is there a range that this falls into? It just doesn't seem like a lot. It says it includes like any investigation or anything else.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a lot. And I think the thought behind that is that because it's not going to include them paying the bad actor the ransom.
Okay.
It's just
Mm.
going to include the forensics
Right.
and,
Fixing it.
yeah, trying to get the key to unlock the data.
That's.
I can imagine we're at high risk.
You
Schools
never know.
actually are at a.
No, I mean
extremely
our
high risk.
school.
Right,
Our
right,
school.
schools are being targeted right now, and that's one of the
I
reasons
just
why we
laughed.
did look at that outside cyber policy. Because you would have much higher limits with that, and it's something to keep top of mind for the future. Like I said, I think that it's been decided that you're gonna just stick with the Pace Cyber for now, but just keep that top of mind as we see like more sophisticated fraudsters
True.
attacking, and it really is like government entities, schools that are the targets of attacks right now. So it's
That
something
answer
to
was
just
my
keep-
question is that you're saying that this does not include paying off the
correct.
ransom. That's
Right.
very helpful.
Yeah.
Now the number makes sense.
Okay.
And it also looks like this is not a negotiable thing anyway. It says this is, Pace is getting it from somewhere else and like, this is what it is.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
what it is.
yeah. They get their cyber from AIG. They should have the cyber coverage through Pace.
An outside policy, is it expensive in relative terms or is it?
The quote that we got was $4,000
Okay.
for the outside cyber, and it would be $1 million limits, and I believe 1 million for the extortion ransomware as well. And like you said,
Right.
you probably wouldn't need $1 million unless you were planning on paying the bad actor.
So this isn't a question to you, but thank you for all that information. That's super helpful.
Yeah.
I think the way that we prevention is the key to this one,
Well-
right? And so that's where you have Mr. Roberts and your policies
Mhm.
internally for that ahead of time.
Yes, and Nathan went through the policy with Dawn and actually the ESD and what we have in place. We are very satisfied with that this would cover
Yeah.
if we did.
Okay. We'll trust you on
And
that.
believe me, I keep forwarding it to Nathan. Are you sure? Are you sure? And he's finally was like, yes, we're fine.
Leave me alone.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yes, any other questions for,
Thank you, Kristen.
Yes, thank you,
Absolutely.
Christine.
I'll get those answers back to you within, I'll
you
reach
give
out
them
to
to
Dawn.
yeah,
Yeah.
you can give them to Dawn. First I'll give
Perfect.
them to us.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right, so then,
Next up.
the fidelity bond comparisons for us, Dawn.
Dawn, do you want to talk about the fidelity bond comparisons? Do this.
Oh.
Um,
Yes,
and can we entertain a break in a minute?
yes. Can we entertain a break after?
Yeah,
For
I mean,
the-
not immediately,
yeah,
just
okay.
in the
Yep,
near
Yep.
future.
Yeah, I handed it to Christine.
Thanks, Jamie. I was reading the paper. He distracted me on purpose. Did it.
This will be my downfall. There. Anyway, the limits there, I wanted to share them with you and I don't have them memorized, but right now we have, is it 500,000? We have 500,000 and the quotes that we got were 750 and $1 million. And I think the additional amount for 750 was, how much is that, Soren?
2205,
2205, and then for $1 million, it is
3570.
3570. So per the audit, we need a recommendation, so at least the board has provided direction on where you want the limits of the coverage. And the only people that have access to really cash here is in a global sense, Nicole Davis has access to a very small amount of cash through activities at the high school and concession.
Yeah.
The people that have really access to the cash is Krista is the signer of everything. And I have access to moving dollars between the banks, but I can't write a check. And then Bren, who deposits the money, but they're all grants and they come through they have to reconcile. And she writes all the checks, but Krista approves all the checks before they're mailed out. She reviews everything and signs off of them, and the board gets a list of all the checks. And I do the reconciliation the day after the end of the month. So that's up to where the board wants to go on that.
Do you know historically we've had any claims against that?
I don't think so.
What are the credit card limits that we carry?
We have
Bren's online. Bren, are you listening? I don't think any credit card goes above 5,000.
I mean, I just can't, I mean, it would be hard for me to imagine someone corrupting a huge amount of money, right? Like, I mean, unless we had some way to access it easily.
Just remember, all the credit cards, they still go through a requisition process.
Mhm.
It's not.
Right, but I mean, if someone
Yeah.
just ran off to Costco and quit their job and spent it all right, I was just curious what that looked like. I mean, I'm not,
No.
It's
Everybody
funny
knows
that you say that
everybody
because
here.
at Costco, our credit cards don't work because
They're
they're
MasterCard. Well, there you go.
Is
Bart
Bren
found that
online?
out,
Is Bren
like-
online?
She
Thank
is.
Costco
Yeah.
for that.
Maybe she does.
But debit cards work all the
Yeah,
time.
Yeah.
well, and she may not be able to. We made it so that she can,
Okay.
yeah, she can and she can.
I
but-
don't think the credit, and this is why, like, for example, I think number one, we have the credit cards under a requisition, but number two, that's why, like, we shouldn't have 11 credit cards.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I'm most concerned about people stealing like from credit cards or a little tiny bit of cash in hand. Like, I think the only thing that would be a killer to us is if like suddenly our reserve fund like was in a bank in Panama or something.
All
I mean,
our
I don't
funds
think
are maintained at the LGIP, and we keep a minimum at the bank. And I transfer the monies over as they're needed, so the district can make more interest.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the limit is probably fine at what it's at, in my personal opinion. I'm not opposed to other conversation. I just don't feel like the risk and the threat is there of paying the extra money.
Yeah, I feel like our procedures, the way they've been laid out, I mean, they do exactly what the auditor said they need to be doing in order to prevent this sort of thing. So I don't consider it a huge problem. On the other hand, it would look pretty foolish if somebody ran off with a bunch of money and the auditor had said, you guys should increase your insurance, and we didn't.
Well, and how much money will we have? I mean, I guess the question is, I don't know. I think a lot of it comes in the faith the board has in the leadership of the district. And I have tremendous faith in you. And I think that helps my feeling, right? I think if we were in the past or with administration that we didn't trust, it would be a much different conversation. So, I mean, I think it's good. I just think that's me though.
Can I ask the consequences of not increasing the limit? What with the audit?
No,
And things like
because
that.
you've addressed it in the board minutes,
Okay.
and you've made that decision, whatever, so you analyzed it, and so you removed that comment.
Kristen, do you have other districts our size in your purview?
Yes.
Do they carry more than the amount that we're carrying?
So I would say that you're on a good amount for your size. And that's kind of the average.
It seemed like the auditor made a connection between the coverage we should have and the ending fund balance. He said, because you have so much ending fund balance, you need more money. And I guess I'm not really clear on how that
It's to
affects it.
protect the district for the total amount.
Right. Of what that
of what
amount is
that
in the
but
bank.
As you're using this money.
It goes away.
maintain, It's
Right.
going down.
Right.
And remember that amount of cash in there right now was a lot of it due to the bond not being spent.
Right.
And so now we're spending all that bond money, plus we're lowering using cash to maintain the program. So it's just gonna get less, and the board is gonna be reviewing where they want the fund balance to be. And developing the budget in the next year.
So in hearing our conversation and hearing where people we're kind of leaning to keeping it the same. Have we caused you heart palpitations? Or have you, I mean, from a financial, from your perspective,
I would rather spend the money other places on
Okay.
windows and things. That's
Right.
just-
I
that's
want to
me.
make sure that
I
we're not
would rather
making,
Spend it covering students in the bus
Mhm.
rather than, like I said, I don't look good in black and white.
that's okay. I want to make sure that, while I do understand that it is in the board's purview and it is us to make the recommendation, we are educated by the people that really know the business. So I just want to make
Right,
sure that,
yeah.
that we,
And I asked Kristen, what do other districts doing? So I didn't want to make sure LC was lower. But we're all roughly the same, and that's per the policy, so.
I agree. I'd like to see those increases in potentially the bodily injury clinics and stuff like that versus this.
And we also know that when you complete the building, that building's gonna be coming on, we're gonna be paying more on premiums
Right,
on that too.
Right.
Yeah, this is something we can control. I feel like we should probably spend insurance money on things we can't control.
so is there a recommendation from the board?
I'll make a recommendation to keep the PACE coverage at 500,000 as presented.
All right. A second to that recommendation?
I'll second that.
Any other discussion? Laura, will you take a vote for us?
Yes.
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 Thank you both so much for all that. Oh, don't turn it off because I'm gonna invite Miss Ellis up. We'll get through the next two items and then let's take a break. So next up is the ratification of the AEA CBA for the years 2024 through 2027. So thank you for being with us this evening
You're welcome.
as we talk through the contract.
So
I'll
I
let you
I
proceed.
gave
Yeah.
you on the board recommendation form, the major the key points for the negotiation. So the compensation package, which included an annual longevity stipend language and updated salary scales with COLAs of, for next year would be a 3.5% COLA increase. The year after would be a 3%. And the year after that would be another 3%. I wanted to do 3 years because the end of the biennium is this year, and then we start the next year. We increased the insurance contributions. Currently, we're at $12.50. We've increased them. That is something that the union brought to the table as well as the district. We are quite low in our insurance contributions across like our region, and so we thought that would be a great thing. We looked at different data and that worked well. We offered a memorialization of an HRA contribution of 50% of the district contribution if the employee waives district offered medical, dental, and vision. That was already in place, but like, unless you really knew, you wouldn't have known.
Okay.
And so I wanted to make sure we put that in there. So as we have transitions, that's not something gets lost by the wayside. And then the creation of an insurance pool, which was actually really huge for, it was brought to by the district as a part of the negotiation. And very rarely does the district and a union come and say, oh, those are the same things we brought, but this one was one of them. And so that was the major key points for negotiations. We also worked, it should be AEA, not AED, I'm sorry. We also worked, we worked to clean up language for clarity. There was a lot of language that wasn't clear or didn't follow necessarily kind of standards for clarity. There was some stuff we need to do compliance for law. There really was no other substantive changes. And so on June 10th, the AEA ratified by vote what I've presented to the board. So the second part of this would be that the board needs to ratify it, or they need to go back and say, no, we won't. So that's my suggestion. I request that the board ratify the current CBA as presented for the periods of 2024 through 2027. Do you have anything else to add?
No, just thank you. It was great.
Yeah, I will be
Thank
honest with
you.
you, and listening to my colleagues throughout our region, I'm very proud of the work that we did as the district in the association. And I'm very proud to say it was done in a very respectful and collaborative manner. And that's not what you're seeing across other districts. And so I was very, it was funny because I went to a meeting and I was like, hey, the rookie superintendent did it well. And they were like, shut up, Krista. But I was just very proud of both the district and the association. I was very happy that we were able to collaborate. And so I'm very proud of what we present, and I hope that the AEA feels proud of how how Catherine and Jason negotiated for them as well.
So is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the LC School District 7J Certified Staff Bargaining Agreement for the period of 2024 to 2027 as presented.
Thank you, Russ. Is there a second? Is there any comment?
Welcome. It was great. It was, the district did a lot of work on this one, like way more, I think, than like you said, maybe even in a lot of other places. You guys really did do a lot. And it was really nice.
I think just making a statement is I hope as a district, as a board, we can do more to support teachers staying in our district. And if this is a good step forward, that makes me really happy. So
It definitely is.
I want to thank you for being at the table 2 years in a row. So much time. And now we have a 3-year contract, which is awesome. I was super excited to see members of the union in there. So having an open negotiations was really kind of nice so that they were there as well. And I hope that we can continue with that kind of openness as we talk through things. Working with you is amazing. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Vote.
Yes.
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 Yes. All right, motion passes. All right, next we have, do you mind saying, just in case there's a question on this one, as the union rep?
Yeah.
As our president?
Like
our-
right here. or
Yeah,
just
right
in
there.
the-
As the MOA salary placement.
Oh,
Will
yeah.
you talk
This
to
is
that one?
just an extension of the MOA that you all voted on in December 23 as an extension of agreement that the board voted on for December, in December of 2021. So ultimately, the original one that you voted on in December of 2023 was just for 1 year. This one memorializes until this employee retires.
Is
I make
there,
a motion to approve the memorandum of agreement as presented.
thank you, there's a
I'll
motion, is there a
second that
second?
motion.
All right, any discussion? All right, we can take a vote. Yes.
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 All right, thank you. We will, that's everything. We will take a 10-minute break.
5 is
5 minute-
fine.
5-minute
is totally
break.
fine.
See you back here at 19:15. How about that?
Thank you.
Hit the loop.
Thank you.
I just made sure I didn't know where we were at.
Yeah. Oh, I got you. All right, we're back in normal session. We're back from recess, I guess, however you want to say that. So, next up is the administrative and confidential salary scale and position recommendation. Ms. Nemroff.
It's quite a bit. So I'm gonna go through it. So, the 2022-23 school year, the board approved administrative supervisory confidential salary scale. All admin was approved to work for 220 days. After completing this year, it is my recommendation that we move the building principal contract from 220 to 210 to match the schedule of a principal in a similar size school district. And that the assistant principal contract be reduced from 220 to 195. I don't believe that in a district our size, that 220 is necessary for principals and vice principals to complete their job. It doesn't make sense. We're asking them to work 5 days a week when really you only have kids for 4 days, and then that 5th day, I think, we work, but I just don't think that it's a 220 contract. And so reduction in days will adjust the salary scales for both positions. I also recommend that on the principal and vice principal that we reduce the steps from 10 to 7. I recommend that we delete the special education director position from the administrative salary scale. You will not find a district our size that has a full-time. You just won't. I believe that that position should be absorbed into some existing administrative position. More than likely will be a superintendent principal position, but in the future, you might find a vice principal that has a lot of sped background. So I recommend that we delete that position from our administrative salary scale. I also recommend that that the maintenance supervisor and transportation supervisor positions be combined into one position, renamed the maintenance transportation supervisor. That position, as I said, will oversee both budget supervising and valuation of maintenance transportation staff, and ensure that district follows all the laws and regulations. Again, in a district our size, you will not see a full-time transportation. I do not believe that we will get to a full-time transportation supervisor unless we're a district probably the size of Monroe or bigger. It just doesn't, financially, it does not make sense for us. What I am proposing, because you're taking a maintenance and you're adding this whole other position, that we include, currently the transportation supervisor gets a $10,000 stipend. What I am proposing is that it no longer be a stipend, but be a part of the new proposed salary scale position. So with the creation of this position, the district will not fill a transportation supervisor position, which is currently in the budget as a 0.5 FTE. So we're taking pretty much a 0.5 FTE. This position, the maintenance and this transportation would be a 1.5. We're combining it down to 1. Also at the January 2023 meeting, the board members voted to adopt the HR reset plan with a salary schedule to set at 2% increase. That was proposed by the former interim superintendent, Sean Gallagher. That affected employees who are classified as confidential staff. At that same meeting, the board also voted to freeze the salaries of those people in that classification. So I am requesting that the board approve the reduction of days to the building principal and building vice principal, reduction of work days. That they approve the proposed salary schedule of the building principal and vice principal based on the reduction of work days, to deletion of the superintendent director position on the salary scale, and the creation of the maintenance transportation supervisor position with a proposed salary scale. I'm also requesting that the board reinstate the 2% step for confidential staff starting in the next school year. Are there any questions for me?
I have a question,
So
but we can
do we want
wait.
to do, let's do a motion first.
Okay.
Let's move into discussion and we can addend motion from there if we need
Yes.
to.
I make a motion to reduce contract days of the building principal and building assistant principal from 220 to 210 and from 220 to 195 respectively, to approve the proposed salary schedule for the building principal and building assistant principal at 210 and 195 days respectively, with a maximum step of 7. To strike the position of special education director from the administrative salary scale, to approve the creation of the position of maintenance/transportation supervisor with a proposed salary scale, and to reinstate the 2% step for confidential staff as recommended by the superintendent.
All right, there's a motion to consider approval. Is there a second?
A second.
Discussion. Jamie, you want to start?
I currently don't have anything.
Okay.
Okay. Russ? Or,
So
yeah, go ahead, Russ. Sorry.
I just have a couple questions for
Yes.
clarity because of the multiple roles.
Yes.
So how is this affected, like when you're fulfilling the principal role and the superintendent role? Because I wasn't privy to hiring you with your contract.
Mhm.
Not really sure how all that works.
So I'm on a separate contract, so
Okay.
this doesn't affect me at all.
Okay.
This was me sitting here and observing and kind of comparing a district of our size, both salary scale Y and days of administration. And what I will tell you, a district of Elsie size, we're about a 1A school district. Most admin in there, building principals work approximately 200 to 210 days. I was a principal of a high school. Actually, I was a principal of a district, K through 12, the size of Elsie, and my contract was 210. So 220 is where you start seeing when you're working at a 4 or 3A to higher, because you have more kids, you have more things you have to do. When we looked at the vice principal position, really just in thinking and in conversations with my staff, there's no need for a vice principal to work the same amount of days as the principal. The vice principal, in our case, will be one who will just be in building. There's 170 kids. A vice principal, in my opinion, is really there for the day-to-day operations of the students. So there's really no need for him to work on days, he or she, I'm sorry, to work on days where there's no students. We have some in there. I just also think as we're moving forward, we have to look at where can we be more effective and efficient with our budget. And this is one place where I think automatically we can look at. Not to saying that Mrs. Shunk or Mr. Rothenberger didn't use their time wisely. I just don't believe in a school district our size at 220 is something that really is effective or is efficient use of our money. I think they have time, and the big thing is on supervisory, administrative and confidential. People think you work 40 hours a week. That's not true. You work till the job's done. And so some weeks you work 50 hours. We don't have comp time in this area. They may get to flex every now and then because we have those Fridays, but when when people go, I work over 40 hours a week, that really only is for hourly. And so really, in just looking at the amount of work, and like I said, it's not saying that Mrs. Shunk or Mr. Rothenberger didn't do their jobs effectively. I just don't believe that a 220 is an efficient use of our budget at this time.
And as far as retention goes, are we worried we'll lose Mrs. Shunk? Are we?
Not that I know of. We've had this conversation prior. So, I will be honest with you. There are not a lot of school districts that I know of in Oregon that are 4 days a week.
Right.
But we also have to remember at a 4 days a week, when you look at a 220, you're looking at 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. We're a 4 day a week. And it also is nice because a lot of the work that we could get done is on Fridays. And so if I have to do those pieces. And so I would just say, this is getting in line with districts our size.
Okay.
You're being mindful.
Yes. And again, you go into special education director, you are not going to find a district our size that has a full-time spend. We have 42 kids with IEPs.
Right.
I would say at most you would maybe have a 0.25, and that's going to cost you money because you're going to have to go through the ESD unless you absorb it in a position that you have.
So.
Go ahead.
I didn't want to cut anybody off.
Oh.
Russ, did I?
No,
I
no, you're good.
Just
Go
have
ahead.
a follow-up. So the vice principal position, are they gonna be required to be available on Fridays? Or they're just gonna be here on Fridays if they need to get something done?
They're going to be available. And here's the thing. Again, we have work calendars out. And it may say that you don't work that Friday, but it is expected, for me, I try to be very respectful of my staff's time. The only person it is expected that I'm on duty or that is on duty for 24/7 really is me. But if I need something, I will call my staff knowing that it is an emergency. They will obviously, the vice principal will be required to be here on days that the students are here. We have created a calendar that shows that. But 195 days, really, the students are here 156 days. The teachers are here 174, so this is just 20 more days than that, and they can flex that time as needed.
So, something in this that I've been thinking about with Krista, you've been here a year now, you've looked at things. And that previous salary schedule was not created under your purview, nor with your guidance, even after we kind of had that informal assignment. That salary schedule was 2 years old and completed under a different superintendent. It's not within one board member to ask the superintendent to revise or relook at that salary schedule. So I'd like to addend your motion if possible to include a relook at the salary schedule. We know that the state school fund is dismal. We know that they're not going to change their formula for calculating money. And I'd like to have a salary schedule that's in place prior to next year starting, or at least starting to work on that salary schedule, so that we know with that biennium coming up, are our scales severely over or severely under, and making a plan for that as we go into that biennium. So if at all, I'd like to addend that motion to include allowing the superintendent to reevaluate salary schedules.
Your vision is to do it before this fall.
It won't
My
happen
vision,
this fall.
my vision is to allow her to do that with the board's approval. I can't just ask that, like, none of us can
Right.
just ask that as one person, so.
Right, yeah, that's what your vision would be, is like the timeline of when it could.
I would advocate for that to be added to your motion if you were good with that.
Is this,
Over the course of the next year prior to the next biennium.
Well, the next fiscal year.
Next.
is
Yeah.
this just for like the administrative
It would-
or non?
Sorry, it would be,
staff,
it
or-
would be everybody, but she's already done the administration side of it, so it would be classified and confidential staff would be
Mm.
what we would be looking at. What she would be looking at.
I have to read the whole thing again.
You do not have to read the whole thing again. You
I,
you can just say that if you agree or not, that's up to you.
I agree to amend my motion to include the option for the superintendent to evaluate the additional salary schedules to make sure we're on track for the forthcoming fiscal years.
And I also had a question about the maintenance of transportation. I guess you feel weird asking, but you've had the conversations with anybody involved as far
I
as
have
workload.
I have had conversations, yes, with workload. I have had conversations prior to bringing this, because I think it's only fair to our staff to have those conversations. So yes, I have had conversations. Remember, this is about a position. I do think, however, with the setup we have one of our secretaries as a part-time transportation, that would help with a lot of the paperwork piece. The piece of the supervisor is to ensure that all evaluations get done and that we are within our budget, and then that we're following the law. So I think the workload.
Okay, so it's not the day-to-day operations of transportation.
No, I mean, obviously this position would have to worry about dispatching, but it's not like they would have, this position would go on and be like, okay, let me get all the reports done. That would be put on a secretary. That would kind of.
Good question.
That is a great question. Thank you.
Chris, I feel like you have something brewing.
Well, I mean, I'm just thinking like, as I'm thinking, I'm like, well, we have someone probably qualified to do that now. If we lose that person, would it be easy to find someone to do both of those later? You think, like it falls in the same wheelhouse? Cause I have no idea.
I will tell you in districts our size, so my experience in the previous district is that's where the position was.
Mhm.
And really, like I said, you have the paperwork part would fall to like a secretary piece. But this position really is the supervisory piece, ensuring that our buses have the annual maintenance. I mean, the position prior, I had a maintenance and a transportation supervisor who was both a contractor and a certified diesel mechanic who could do it all, but this person would just make sure that we are following, or this position would make sure that we're following the necessary laws and regulations. So yeah, I
Okay.
do think it would be.
I mean, yeah, it makes sense. I
Yeah.
just want to make sure we're not,
No, I think it would.
plugging people into positions that they might not have the breath to like, take care of all the details.
And like I said.
And
the-
not putting more on your plate
Yeah.
because you wear a lot of hats and I think,
I don't disagree. And like I said, this position would have a part-time secretary to help with
Mhm.
paperwork and things like that.
Mm, Okay.
Any other discussion? All right, so we have an addended motion. Russ, do you still stand with the
I have
second on
one other
that?
question.
Okay.
So only in the context of the public sphere here, in getting rid of a special education director, I think it's very important that we don't lose sight of the needs of the special education kids. So, I mean, I guess, I think if I had a kid with special needs here, it would be very important to me that I had a point of contact for that,
Mhm.
that was, able to tangibly handle my needs at that moment. And I just hope if we do this, I totally understand. I mean, looking at the number there, right? That's a huge salary for a limited need. But I also think parents who have kids with special needs really want a person that's designated as that person.
Yeah.
So I mean, or a contact to get to the person who's that person that's dedicated to that
I
person.
can speak to that, having a kid on an IEP, that we do have a designated teacher.
Okay.
And any additional questions can definitely go through the school principal and the superintendent, the support have knowledge in that. So I feel very comfortable with this decision and the district.
Okay.
Because what I will tell you is, like, for example, I do know of a district who contracts to the ESD, and it's a point, I believe it's a 0.25, so it's like 1 day a week. And that person only comes down once a month to deal with SPED. They have to call the ESD to get that person. So this way we're absorbing it. And so, like I said, really, I would suggest that we absorb it at the superintendent principal level at this point, but there might come a point where maybe we have a VP who has a lot of special education experience. I think, number one, like you said, it's we want that person to always be somebody to be available for the contact. With the setup that we currently have, I will tell you, I really truly believe that our special education teacher is very communicative, that our school principals are very communicative, and that ultimately, if there's any issues, I know about them pretty immediately because they automatically come to me, and knowing that we reach out to the parent as well. We also have a special education secretary, a part-time one, that is also really communicative. So we do have like 4 people in that piece. But I don't disagree with you. I think it's very important for that.
I just don't want to have a target on our back,
Nope, I
right?
agree.
Like we're ignoring the needs. I mean, I believe we can do an adequate job. I just want to make sure it's transparent
Yeah.
that this is still a priority and we're not just trying to save money by saying, well, those kids, we can just deal with what we have to, right?
So we would still have someone who's called a SPED director, it's just not a separate position.
Nope, it would be, for example, if the Mrs. Shunk was going to be the designated SPED director, which I'll tell you, we do have to tell OE every year that we have it. She would be known as the Learn at Home principal / special education director. Or if the
Mhm.
vice principal was it, they would be known as the vice principal / special.
Yeah, we're just eliminating the
Yes.
separate.
We're
position
eliminating the
that
separate
we already
position.
been filling at this time.
Yep.
Okay.
Well, and I think it's been that way for quite some time.
We
Right.
we had one that I believe resigned from the district last March,
Yeah.
a full-time special education.
Okay. That satisfies my question.
Okay.
All right, so there's an addended motion. Rusty, you still second that addendum?
Yes, I second that motion.
We've had discussion. Thank you for the great discussion. Go ahead, Laura.
Lauren,
Yes.
Christie,
Yes.
yes, Russ.
Yes.
All right, motion passes and we will move into the proposed classified salary scale.
Again, at the January 12th, 2023 meeting, the school board voted to adopt the HR reset plan. The salary schedule is set at a 2% step increase as proposed by former interim superintendent Sean Gallagher. They voted at that same meeting to freeze the salaries for those employees in that classification for this school year. I'm recommending to the board for the upcoming school year that the board votes to reinstate the 2% increase for classified, as well as provide a 2% COLA. For those employees at the top of the scale, they would only receive the 2% COLA, so we would not add a step increase. We stop at 10. So that is my recommendation.
All right, is there a motion to consider?
I'll make a motion to consider the proposed classified salary scale as proposed, as written.
All right,
as recommended by the superintendent. Sorry, I wasn't looking at the line. There you go.
All right, there's a motion to approve as recommended. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, any discussion?
I just want to make sure we have it on local record. These recommendations are reflective of what we have budgeted for.
There's a head nod from our,
Yeah, just want to get that on record.
other
Is
discussion.
this one that we would want to look at eventually also?
This is,
'Cause I
This
would
would be
like,
one that would be reviewed.
I
this
would
is
like
in
to-
the previous motion that this would be
This would
reviewed.
also
This
be-
is just
sorry.
unfreezing them, I believe.
Yeah,
right?
unfreezing them and then the 2%.
No other discussion? All right, we have a motion and a second. Discussion's complete. Laura?
Yes.
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 Motion passes. All right, superintendent contract. All right, so upon negotiating Ms. Neerot's contract in 2023, there are multiple areas not addressed that we were not actually aware that she would be taking on additional administrative roles. So upon starting in the district, Ms. Neerot took over full responsibility for K through 12 principalship. Sorry, that should say K through 5.
K6.
Oh, K6. Oh, and that was
Number
right. K6 principalship, special education and food admin administration. Changes negotiated for the contract that's proposed are as follows. This contract would start 7/1. The term of the contract will be 7/1/24 through June 30th, 2027. Previously, it was July 2023 through June 2026. Compensation, base salary increases per administrative salary schedule. It's included in this summarization so that you can see the difference. Compensation stipend for additional principalship and administrative roles is in there. And there's a benefit increase for insurance compensation that would be $425 per month to the HRA, and a retirement benefit increase to $500 per month, which is a $250 per month increase. I've discussed this with the superintendent and Mr. Staley as part of the conversation. This was budgeted in the budget. And I would make a recommendation to the board to approve this based on not only the skill set of our superintendent, but retaining the talent that we have in this district. So,
I make a motion to approve the superintendent contract as presented.
all right, there's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
All right, is a motion and a second? Is there any discussion?
I'll just point out that it does say that Krista is again the special education administrator. So there is a designated person already.
Well, this year's yes. Yeah, she was, right? That was your.
And right
so
now, I believe, and unless we have,
Something changes.
yeah, I would keep that role in my position.
I think it says in the contract that it's going to be a K-12 principalship / sped director.
I tried to highlight all of the changes, so I made sure they're easy for eyes.
I looked at it very closely. I think it's conservative, which I appreciate because of the budgets that we're facing upcoming. Not potentially, I feel you deserve the moon, so I wish we could do a lot more. However, I think it's a conservative, well-deserved increase.
I'll go with Jamie and just say, I think if this is what you feel, I would have expected it to be a little higher as well. Knowing that you're spending a lot of your part-time doing your full-time job. I mean, it's just very clear to us because of this, right? And the amount of information you get to us. So I will agree with that. I would actually say, I hope that that can be better in the future.
I will say that there's a component under compensation that the salary rate may be increased by mutual agreement between the school board and the superintendent for work performed or to be performed by the superintendent. That is something that is a conversation that if the board chooses, the board chair can take to the superintendent, and the superintendent chooses, they take the board chair, and then we have this discussion. So
Okay.
to those points that is in the contract for those continued conversations.
Great.
Any other discussion? All right, well, we can take a roll call vote then.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
Yes.
thank you. Motion passes. All right, 2023 Special Revenue Appropriation Resolution 2408.
We are just accepting the grant funds we got through this year. Dawn and I have decided next year we're gonna do this as we get the grant funds. So we're not doing them all at the year. These grant funds were not proposed in the budget of last year, so you guys will just need to accept or a motion to approve the resolution 2428 to accept those funds officially. Always.
Yes, please. I know, we just need everybody to hear it.
Like Krista said, when we get the actual grant amount, I will be bringing the proposed budget so I can modify them as they go. Rather than, because you have approved a lot of the budgets already, but that is estimate amounts. So then we'll bring that resolution to adjust it so the budget keeps going along as we get approved.
Thank you. All right, is there a motion to consider?
I will make a motion to approve resolution 2408, resolution to increase the special revenue appropriations for fiscal year 23-24 as presented.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, is there any discussion? None heard? Go ahead, Laura.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
Yes.
thank you. Motion passes. 2409 resolution packet.
This resolution just pretty much says that the board is adopting the budget for this fiscal year 24-25, that you're adopting the budget, you're making the appropriations, you're opposing the tax, and you're categorizing the tax.
All right, is there a motion to consider?
Make a motion to adopt resolution 2409, which includes adopting the budget, making the appropriations, imposing the tax, and categorizing the tax as presented.
Thank you.
I'll second that motion.
All right, there's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All right, Laura?
Lauren?
Yes.
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 All right, motion passes. Thank you. Continuation agreement packet.
So we have two contracts that I'm proposing that the board vote on for continuation of service under one motion. The first one is for oh God, I can't say. IMS, because I just can't talk.
Integrity Management
Thank you,
Solutions.
Integrity Management Solutions. It's a construction management services. This is Chris and Nancy for the seismic upgrade. This is to continue their project managing. You can do that under your guys' policy GJC and the DJCAR that goes with it. If you believe that the second contract is for Mr. Staley's business manager services, the difference between this year and last year is that this contract for Mr. Staley includes mileage reimbursement. You guys can decide, or you guys can vote on this continuation. Because in the renegotiation of existing contracts with incumbent contractors, when it's in the best interest of the district, does not encourage favoritism and will result in the cost savings to the districts. If we were to go out for either one of these contracts, it would be a substantial increase in cost. So my suggestion or my recommendation to you all is to approve the resolution 2410.
I will make a motion to approve resolution 2410 as presented.
Thank you. Is there a second? All right, there's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
Both of those entities have performed so well that I don't see any reason to go elsewhere.
I'm so excited to see that one come
Ah.
across. So thank you.
We're
Very
so
nice.
thankful that we get to ask you to please unmute again for another year. All right. Motion and a second discussion. Go ahead, Laura.
Yes.
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 Yes. All right. Kitchen for, oh man, thanks a lot. Pass that one off to me.
Nope.
Contract for kitchen planning.
Um,
Otterstrom Architects.
The next four is all about Chris and Nancy, so I'm gonna have them pop on. Lots to do. Sorry, Chris. I know I was like, Chris, hurry, but we got to them finally. So this has to do with kitchen planning and the seismic. So I'm gonna let Chris, and Nancy, take it away.
Great. Hello, folks. How you doing?
Good, how are you?
Yep. Sorry we can't be with you tonight. Sorry we missed the bond report earlier. Yeah, so we've got several things. The next several items are things. The kitchen is one that has been discussed. If you folks remember, that was a kind of a close decision with the board whether to spend bond money on the CTE building or the kitchen some time ago, and the CTE won that out. At this point, in talking with Krista and Don, it sounds like there are some funds that could be available, perhaps through some grants. We've been talking to some of the, like the Benton Foundation has funds that they think could be available for this. Anyway, to get to a stage where we need to can evaluate and find out what we might be looking at, what the cost might be, a ballpark cost for that. We'd like to retain the services of Soderstrom Architects, and that's this agreement that you have here. And this would be just for conceptual design. So what they would do, they'd come in and they would meet with Krista, they'd meet with other staff, they'd look at the layout of the current building. There's some concepts already we've been discussing with Krista and even with Marlene. And so there's a general idea, but they'll look at several options, try to decide what might be most cost effective, give us the space we need and how that could be expanded. Anyway, so this proposal just gets us to that. It would produce some conceptual drawings and a cost estimate, a ballpark cost estimate to say, okay, what kind of funds might we be looking at that then we could discuss with Don and Krista to say, okay, great, how might we go forward when we have those funds?
Thank you, Chris. Is there a motion to consider in this space?
I'll make a motion to accept the proposal from Soderstrom Architect as presented.
All right, there's a motion. Is there a second? Second. All right, discussion or questions?
I actually have a question probably for Krista. I've been a big proponent of this kitchen, so to the point where like I didn't really want to ask questions, but now that we're gonna actually spend money. So I just want to ask, so the amount we're spending with Corvallis is like what, $38,000 a year or something?
It's 38 for administrative fees, almost 40, yes.
Not counting the cost of the food.
Pardon?
Not counting the cost of the food.
So disregarding any cost of building the kitchen, would cost of food go, you can go up or down?
I'm not sure. I would tell you it'd probably go up just because of just costs in general. What the thing that I've been in contact with Philomath, and we're in the same position, and I'm gonna be honest with you. At any time, Corvallis could come to us and say, we're no longer doing this. And so they could do the same thing for Philomath. So I've been talking with the superintendent Philomath, you know, if we go out, can we still be a part of, you know, can we still be a consortium kind of piece? And I even think that maybe the same thing with Corvallis, they'd stay. What this would truly allow us to do would be saving the $38,000 of administrative fees. But food is going up no matter what. I can't say for sure how much it.
Well, and I think it also gives us some flexibility on the food that's prepared, right? We're not limited to just what they're offering us.
Yeah, right.
Because we
Way
know.
better job with the food.
Yes.
More kids would get it,
Much higher
so we get
quality.
more reimbursement. Do we have to hire more kitchen staff?
No, because what I will tell you is that a district our size too is about what we don't have. Even if we got rid of, let's say, the $40,000 of that Corvallis fee, we would still be 40 to 50 in the hole. We can't afford to hire another staff member. Because remember, when we talk about classified staff, even though let's say they make $30,000 a year, their benefits are $30,000 a year. So no, I actually would say that our staff could absorb it.
And when you talk about food costs going up, even if it's our own kitchen, to be clear, that food cost we may also have to absorb with a contract with Corvallis, because they can raise that cost also, right? So we're at the mercy of just the market in that space.
Well, and one thing that, you know, like for example, we're no longer getting, I don't remember who delivers our milk. They're just not delivering it anymore out here.
Right.
So Corvallis will deliver it, you know, it might be one of those where if, you know, there might be an added cost for us where if we go away from Corvallis, we'll have to go pick it up in Florida. But we're getting to the point now, it doesn't even matter if we're with really Corvallis, we're just, you know, they're just like, we're not delivering Lockmead, that's who it is.
Yeah.
They're
Lockheed
not,
Martin.
they actually called
Can't you
Corvallis.
just bring in on your way to work every day?
We could, you know, I mean, we actually once had to send in a bus to go get the milk for the week.
Are they not delivering to the Merc anymore?
I have no idea what happened. We just
Yeah.
literally got
When
we
was
just
that?
literally got an email that said Lockmead is no longer.
How long
delivering
ago was
to us.
that?
Oh, God, a week ago.
Oh, that's probably why.
So,
Anyway, that would explain. Okay, well,
so,
great
yeah.
news. I will say this. I think there's always for a rural school district, like dealing with what I do in my nonprofit and So Let's Travel, there's always funds to help
Mhm.
with food.
Yep.
Because there's so many organizations that want, you know, underprivileged areas and students to be able to eat.
Mhm.
I think the cost, we could find other grants and other monies available to help absorb the cost of food. I think we have to have, let's just brass tacks here. We can't legally prepare it, right? We just have to have a way to feed our kids
Mhm.
and do that on a day-to-day basis without hoping Big Brother up the road who closed our health clinic and, you know, promises a lot of things they don't deliver is going to keep doing it. Because if we can't feed our kids, then we have to close the doors, right? Like, I mean, by law,
Well, I mean,
or
you,
they have to pack a lunch. every
well, and
day.
I mean, there are school districts who actually don't participate in the National School Food Program. So they'll like keep a box of cereal and some milk. There are school districts in Oregon that do that. I don't want to do that.
No,
Dawn
no, I
always
don't
says,
wanna
and I
do it.
totally agree. We pay fully for transportation for our students to come to school every day, but we don't fully pay for them.
Right.
And so my major concern moving forward, and I'm gonna be open and honest, is we are really at the mercy of another district who at any time could say, I'm sorry, we're making too many cuts and we no longer could absorb it. And then really now we're up a creek without a paddle.
Right.
So I think we need to start moving on to become self-sufficient and then look for grants to help offset food costs. But we need to be self-sufficient.
Sure, I
This
agree.
will allow us to be able to prepare our own food and create our own menu.
Well, so this
Eventually.
motion right here is
Is to
to allow
evaluate.
Sodderson to come in and
Right,
give us
I
conceptual
understand,
ideas, and then I
yes.
think we have multiple ones from there. but
Yeah, so
I
if we
think-
get
is
that
the
commercial
goal?
kitchen.
Yeah, we would have which we couldn't do prior. Chris, please tell me if I'm correct. We couldn't do this prior to do a commercial kitchen because our electrical was completely maxed out. With the new electrical, it should allow us to become a completely commercial kitchen. Chris, I'm
Yeah.
correct on that, right?
That's right, Krista. The commercial kitchen was one of the options going way back to the bond program that was on the docket, but it had to be after the sequence of events.
And I apologize, Jamie. I think you were trying to clarify that this
Sure.
would allow, the goal in
Moving- the
this,
end goal.
this would be to do that. And I
Mhm.
apologize.
Yes.
I heard that wrong.
That is the end goal, is that we would have a commercial kitchen and a cafeteria.
And does this also open up opportunities for student CTE type learning with food handler cards and
I
is
would
it
hope
part of
so.
the preparation to offset maybe some of that?
I would hope so. The problem becomes is size, one. Two, we also have to be careful because, you know, like we have to do things a certain way and we have to, so I'm not sure. I would say I would hope it would, but I'm also not gonna say yes for
Promise,
sure.
Right.
But
Okay.
this would move us in the right direction, to get where we need to be. So yes.
Chris, if I could add just a little, I can tell you that other schools we've worked with, when they've done their kitchen upgrade in schools, usually that can be designed in without much extra cost. Is, you know, you've got this nice commercial kitchen and then use that space, depending on the class size, to teach students how to use some of these facilities. It's a wonderful opportunity. So we can consider that, and probably without a lot of cost impact to the project.
I think with hospitality, you know, being a thoroughfare to the coast, some employment opportunities for youth stepping out at graduation would be improved if we had an option like that.
All right, so we've had some discussion on this one. Go ahead, Laura.
Yes.
Yes,
Russ?
Yes.
Yes.
motion passes. Okay, review.
CGMC. CMGC.
Yeah, review draft findings of fact for CMGC contract method. For the
Okay,
seismic.
Chris, that's on you, because I sort of,
So first of all, just a quick question for the board. Is anybody familiar with the CMGC method? Has anybody heard that?
Didn't we utilize that for our bond?
No, we haven't. We haven't.
I
So
think it would be good to go over again.
Yeah.
be glad to. No, I just didn't want to beat the horse. Basically, what this is a long established method for construction procurement. So this is a method of hiring the general contractor. The traditional method is design, bid, build. We did this with the CTE building. You finish design, you get some general contractors pre-qualified, you give it to them, you choose the low bid, off you go. This is a method that the state actually adopted a white paper, and it's part of the Oregon statutes now, a method for procurement that gets them involved during design. So it's a way of selecting a contractor early in design, getting them involved so that they actually participate as a part of the team. They review 50% drawings, they'll do construction estimates, they'll come out, in this case, they'll come out to the building, they'll do some analysis, look above ceiling spaces and even in walls, and provide information to the design team from their expertise so that it really beefs up the design and it prevents surprises. The beauty of this method, when you use it in projects like a complex, it's used primarily for complex projects, especially renovations like a seismic upgrade. In fact, I can tell you that virtually every seismic upgrade that's done in the state is done using the CMGC method for this purpose. And that is that they come in and they participate. All those surprises that they help us avoid end up being cost and schedule impact. So I think Krista had an experience like this. Rather than taking 3 months to build this, it can take 6 months because you get into the construction and oops, we found that the structure is a little different than we thought. And now we've got to go back and redesign it, and there's some more cost. So this method helps us avoid that. And that's the reason it's used so widely. We follow this, we've used this on many projects. So what this findings does in essence is it's referring to those Oregon statutes and saying, here's the reasons why we want to use this method. So the Oregon statutes require that the board review these findings and agree that, yes, we do want to use this method versus the traditional design, bid, build method. The result, the next steps from this is if you agree to this findings, it's a draft version of it. There needs to be, according to the statutes, a 14-day period to publicize that. And we would do that. We would put that out in the trade journals and just let people know. And then there's a hearing after 14 days. And there's rarely ever any comment from anybody in the public. In fact, I've never seen that. And then at that point, then the board would vote to adopt this findings, and then we would go out and we would procure a contractor using this method. And that's other steps that go with that. So Nancy and I have done this many times. We've used this on a number of schools. Kind of a lot of information in a short time. What questions do you have for us?
So I have a question, Chris. In this process, do you have multiple construction companies like involved in this, or are you already kind of saying, hey, we like Turner, we're going to get them involved in this design process?
No, it is a competitive selection. That's a good question. What we would do then, the next step after we have this public review period, and then the board, adopts this finding, we prepare a request for proposals. So at this point, then we go out and we put this. It's a much more complex process for selection, but contractors would submit their qualifications. What have they, they have to prove that they have done seismic upgrades on schools in the last few years and done it successfully. Okay. We look at their references. In addition, we also get contract information. They provide fee structure and general conditions and expenses, and that's all part of it, and we score it all. And so we would have a selection committee that you folks or Krista would help us put together, and we would rank them. So we would have several contractors compete for this, and we know, for example, Todd Construction would compete. We know several others that would as well. So
Okay.
yeah, it would be a competitive process.
Great.
I have a question about, so when they're submitting their proposals, this is before the design phase, correct?
I'm sorry, I didn't quite catch that. Could you speak up a little bit?
When they're submitting their proposals, this is before the design phase, correct?
No, what we'd be doing is we're going to launch the design. That's actually the next things on the agenda. We want to launch design as soon as possible because we have a tight schedule here with this funding. We really want to do this construction next summer. And so we're going to do the first part of design while we're selecting a contractor. Our goal is when we get to 50% design, which should be in September, by that time we've selected a contractor, and then they jump onto the team and they participate in the last 50% of the design, which takes us into the beginning of next year.
Gotcha.
So do their proposals contain some sort of financial information, like similar to a bid?
It
What
is.
prevents them from coming later and saying, well, now that the design was only 50% done, and now we think it's gonna cost this much more.
No.
Is there something to prevent that?
Right. What we do is their proposal doesn't include a hard price. What it includes is a percentage. So contractors typically put a markup on their work. In a hard bid, you don't see it; it's buried in there. But what they do is they'll propose a fee, say 5-6% of construction plus insurance, bonds, etc. That is this markup. That's what we typically see. We metric that against others. And so what that is locked into the contract. So when we finally go out and we get a third-party estimate, and then we have the contractor also go out and they do bids to the subcontractors, which again, in a hard bid process, we don't see any of that. In this method, that's all open to us. It's an open book process where they're required to do competitive selection of subcontractors. We get to see those bids. We get to evaluate those bids with them. And then also the nice thing about CMGC is any contingency they have is open to us. We see that. And at the end of the project, any unused contingency comes back to the district. We're finishing a project right now in Coos Bay that is CMGC. It's an $11 million project. And there's $150,000 that's not spent that's going to come back to the district. So we've been tracking that. Anyway, it's a very open book process, and there's a lot of procedures that have been in place that's very well established. Did that answer your question, Soren?
Yes.
Okay.
So thank you for all of that, Chris. We're at a motion stage on this one.
Okay. Well,
Is there a motion to consider?
I'll make a motion to consider the resolution as written. The architect finding and fee
No,
schedule.
we're on the.
Oh, sorry, the other
CMGC
one. Sorry,
findings for
sorry.
LC
I was
Jim
skimming ahead.
Seismic.
I would say the motion needs to say that you would accept the
The
findings for the
CMGC.
CMGC contracting method.
Okay,
That's what the motion is.
let me try that again. I'll make a motion to accept the findings of the CMGC contract method.
Thank you. Is there a second? All right. I know we had some good questions. Is there any discussion further that we want to have on this? All right, Laura?
Yes.
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 All right, motion passes. Go ahead and take a drink of water, Chris, because you're up next.
Just follow that motion I made already, 'cause
Yeah,
I was
this
zooming
is-
ahead.
This is for the architect finding and fee schedule for the Jim Seismic.
Yes, so the next two also relate to the seismic, and thank you for your patience in going through these. Typically, again, the Oregon statutes require that we would go out and have competitive selection of architects, engineers, and these next two are related. there's different statutes that they refer to only because of the dollar value involved. The architect's dollar value is less than the amount that requires that a little more rigorous selection. Whereas the engineer's value in their contract is more like 170,000, and so it's above that level. And so there are a couple of statutes that are referenced in there. In essence, both of these come down to the same thing, and that is we can go through a competitive selection process, and that typically takes 2 to 3 months to do that process. And that's 2 to 3 months, frankly, that we don't have. If we don't start design in July, we will not be ready for construction next summer, which means that we would probably get started during the summer, and we would not have the gym available in the fall for the students to use. And so that's why in that situation, the statutes allow provision that there's considerations here, and that's what we've tried to document in these findings. These don't have a public hearing period. It's more of a findings that if you agree with these conclusions, that you would adopt the finding, and that would allow us to go ahead and get the architect and the engineer under contract right away so that they could begin design in July. I'll also say that the design team that's being recommended here, Soderstrom, you're well familiar with. ZCS is the other one, that's the engineering one. They are the structural engineer on the CTE building, so they're familiar with the school. They also did the assessment that the seismic grant was awarded. They're really one of the top engineering firms in the state. They do so many seismic assessments. They do so many seismic upgrade designs. We've worked with them on a number of projects. There are other good firms, but ZCS is very reliable. They're very good to work with. They have competitive fees, and they were the ones that did the assessment. If we were to go at this point and to select another structural engineer to come in, not only would it take that time to go through the selection process, but I'm confident that it would add time for them to go back and they have to reassess everything that basically gets us to the place we are now. So it would basically guarantee we wouldn't do the work next summer.
I'd like to move to accept the architect finding and fee schedule and the engineer finding and fee schedule for the LC gym.
We have to
seismic.
do two
separate
separate ones.
Yeah.
Okay. I move to approve the architect finding and fee schedule for the gym seismic.
I'll
Alright.
second that motion.
All right, any discussion or questions?
So just to clarify, wherever, this is Soderstrom, who is already familiar with the project, and from your point of view, we're happy with how they performed, correct?
Yes, they've been doing an excellent job, and I would also defer to Krista on that for her opinion, but we've been very happy with their performance.
I like them a lot.
They are like Megan, who is the architect, I believe, right now on the CTE building, is constantly emailing. Like, I mean, they have been amazing to work with. Marlene worked on did our bathrooms pretty much just free of charge. They're amazing. I would recommend Soderstrom to anybody.
Yeah, I like them at OSBA. They were great.
Yep.
Yeah, they're very service oriented. Nancy and I have done a number of projects. Again, there are other good firms out there, but they're already involved in this. They're already familiar with it. They are already familiar with the seismic assessment, and so it allows them to really jump in and hit the ground running.
Hours, everything.
Oh,
Everything.
Good question, though. I like
Yeah.
that. Any other discussion or questions? All right, go ahead, Laura.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
thank you. All right, next is the engineer finding and fee schedule. I think, Chris, you already went through that with the same with the architect, or do you have more that you'd like to add in the engineer space?
No, not unless there's specific questions about that.
Okay, so we'll entertain a motion on the engineer finding and fee schedule.
I move to accept the engineer finding and fee schedule for Alcine Gymnasium site.
I'll second that motion.
All right, any discussion or questions on the engineer
Again-
aspect?
Again, so this is ZCS Engineering, correct?
Mhm.
And again, they're familiar with the project, and from your point of view, they're reasonable or great to work with. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. We've also worked with them directly on other projects. You know, so yeah, they're familiar with the project. They did the assessment that helped us win this award. They've done a great job.
Previously not awarded.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest
Three
with
times
you.
not awarded.
We had a gentleman show up about a month and a half ago, and he's like, "Hi, I'm from ZCS. I'm doing your next 2 assessments right now." I didn't even know they were showing up, and they've been great. I worked with them on 2 other projects. They've been great. And he literally, Chris and I followed him around, like getting ladders, and I was asking him questions. And he could tell me everything about our building.
Outstanding.
Yeah.
All right. Did you have, sorry.
I was just gonna say, so the overall goal of the seismic gym upgrade, is it just structural? Is it also cosmetic? Like what's it's just
No.
structural integrity?
That's right, and that's a good question, because this really is more structurally led. It's a little unusual compared to most projects, but this is primarily so that in a real major seismic event, the gym and then the associated offices next to it, that they're going to be standing. They're going to be immediately, there's a term called immediate occupancy, so that it would serve the community if needed.
Great.
And
Great.
and then our goal, as Krista just mentioned, is this is just the first of the grants. We are doing assessments for the rest of the building in 2 other phases, the other classroom wings and everything else. We really want to see the whole school get this upgrade by applying for future grants. And we may not win every one, but we'll keep sending that back in with ZCS, you know, taking the lead on that assessment, so that we can get each grant award is about 2.5 million. And that'll allow us to do this in 3 phases. The first phase being the gym.
So we could lower our insurance.
Well, I actually, okay, so I do have a question now that you talk about that one. We look at the other phases. Since we have Soderstrom also giving us a design for the cafeteria, are they already taking into account that we would want to have evaluations of the seismic as well? And I don't want to re-spend money is what I'm
No.
trying to say, even if.
You know, really the what we're doing, if you can think of it this way, structural code is constantly changing and upgrading, and they're finding more about earthquakes all the time. And so what we're doing is we're trying to change the current structure of the gym in this project to meet the current seismic code. That's what we're doing. If we do an addition, like the CTE building, for example, it meets current seismic code. If there's a major event, it's supposed to be standing afterwards. We'll do that with this kitchen addition. If whatever changes we make, it has to meet structural code.
Perfect. Thank you. I just wanted to make sure we weren't double doing.
Good question.
All right. Any other questions, comments? All right, Laura?
Yes.
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 Thank you so much, Chris and Nancy, for all of this. Appreciate
You
it.
guys are the best.
Thank you, folks. Thanks for your time this evening.
Can I just jump in real quick? And I
Yes.
need to remind you, Chris and Krista, you had I left you a voicemail this afternoon with since you have approved the CMGC finding of facts, that has to be advertised tomorrow. And or that's what our hope is, and then we have that 14-day period. So we have to, in the advertisement, set the date for the review, the open, when people can send in their comments.
Okay.
that
We're
needs to
gonna
be-
talk our board meeting, which will be at least 30 days, probably between 25 to 30 days from now. Do we have to it has to be at least 14 days, correct, Nancy?
It needs to be as close to 14 days. We're hoping it can be that week of the 8th to the 11th. Because that way we can get the design team going, or we can get the process going.
Okay, thank you, Nancy.
Okay.
Hey, Nancy, can you come back off mute really quick?
Sure.
If we did the hearing, can we do the hearing? Does Krista need to be at the hearing?
No,
No.
it can actually even be a Zoom meeting. We don't expect it's going to take more than about 5 minutes because we don't expect to have a lot of response. So it can actually be where we just open up a Zoom meeting and keep it open for a few minutes to see if people call in. And that can be all it is.
Okay. So we'll need to set a meeting date for the fact of finding. Am I saying that right?
Finding of facts.
Findings of facts
For the
Yeah.
CMGC, correct?
for the
Nancy?
CMGC,
And you put it better than I did. It's the hearing. Yes.
the hearing. Okay.
Does it have to be, you said it has to be the week of July 8th?
That would really be the best if we could get it that week so that we can get everybody going, get the process going. We don't want to waste a minute of time on this if we want to do the construction next summer.
Okay, okay. Thank you, Nancy, for pointing that out. We appreciate it.
All right. So with that, did we do a vote? Sorry. Did we vote yet? Yes. Thank you. It's been a long meeting, okay? So we actually have a board meeting already scheduled for July 11th.
I thought it was the 25th.
We did change it to the 25th.
Oh, you're right. We changed it to 25th, but
So the board meeting on the 25th will have to be virtual because we won't be able to either,
Right.
or we'll have to do it at the library because we won't be able to get into the gym at all.
okay.
But I think that board meeting, if we do it virtually, it'll be quick and easy. It'll be the organizational chart. And it will be the consent agenda of hiring if we hire people during that. So it could be, I would say, less than 25 minutes.
You're gonna kill me. I'm in North Carolina that day. Oh, it's fine. I will, if it's Zoom,
I think we could do it. Yeah, because we won't be able to get into the gym at all. And I also can't promise that we'll have power that week because that's the third week. So I'm not sure.
Laura, I'll talk to you if there's any conflicts, but let's just keep, the board meeting's on the 25th. We won't, but we do need to have the hearing for the findings of facts of finding.
Yeah. For the CGMC.
For the
I am not,
CMGC.
what I will tell you is I am out of country that entire week. I don't believe I have to be here. I think that you guys could run it with Chris and Nancy. And just, I think it could be completely on Zoom. So you could do 7 o'clock just to make it easier or whatnot. What is everybody's week of that?
The 25th or what?
No, the week of the 8th to do the hearing.
Of July?
Yep,
Oh.
the 8th. Yeah, what does that look like? And I think it maybe would be at most 15 minutes.
The 9th is my only night I'm busy. Other than that, I'm free.
I'm wide open, especially if we can do 6:30 or 7.
Yeah.
I'm clear
So-
on any evening if it's before the 11th.
How about the 10th? Does the 10th work?
Nathan, are you okay on the 10th to do a Zoom meeting for this? Okay.
At 6:30? Does 6:30 work for everybody?
On which day?
The 10th. It's a Wednesday.
Sorry,
You're fine.
I just had a surgeon texting me.
It'll be completely on Zoom.
So the 10th at 6:30?
Does that work for you?
Yeah, that's fine.
Laura will throw it on calendars. Yes.
Perfect. Okay.
Okay, yeah, I'm trying to load up on, okay, and I had some other stuff there.
We got through all the new business, you guys.
Yay.
Sorry, it was so long.
It was a long one. That's why we read it ahead of time though, too. We don't have anything for old business. We don't have any first readings. We don't have any second readings. Board comments. I did want to just highlight that OSBA summer conference is being advertised. It is held in Salem. They do have hotel rooms for us if we'd like to have hotel rooms.
What are the dates on that again? I saw the
Oh,
email
the
back
9th through the 11th. Is that right?
of August.
No, of July.
July.
Oh.
August.
oh.
August.
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 Never mind, August.
Okay, I thought it was August, but
I'm just gonna make a small plug. We are having like an in-person rural caucus assembly that weekend. And so we'll have like a whole session where all boards, even if they're not part of the rural caucus, can bring their concerns about why they aren't in the rural caucus and how can they get in there. And any small schools can bring in their concerns about funding and what we need that feels different than other schools. So, that's just a plug for it. I would encourage us to make it. I think it's been really, oh, and what did you get last year? You got like a leadership
There's
thing.
the first day was a bronze level training certification. They're doing silver level this time.
Yep.
So please sign me up.
Yeah. So let Laura know if you'd like to go. I think it's a great opportunity for us to be able to build connections together too.
I
That,
learned so much.
yeah, I'm excited for that.
Yeah, I mean, I want to try to go. I just gotta just get back to me.
Will you let Laura know? Just
Yeah,
let her know, and then Laura, will you sign me up also? And I'm gonna stay the nights up there since I'll be
it's
helping
the
with
9th
rural
through
stuff.
the 11th, you said, or something.
I
Yeah.
prefer to stay as well.
I just gotta check with the wife.
Yeah. Perfect. Any other board comments this evening?
I just wanted to point out a pretty good example of the school community coming together, like at the graduation, there was like a technical hiccup with the
Oh, that was
national
so
anthem, and we waited, and everybody was standing, and it was hot, sweaty, and then one person started,
Ellis.
is it okay
Oh,
to say her name?
yes. I
So
think
Miss
so.
Ellis started singing it. I kind of thought she was just gonna sing it because that's what she does. Everybody started singing it, and it was pretty awesome. Everybody knew all the words. Some of us didn't sing the high note. We backed off for that. It was noticeable, but probably better for it. Anyway, it was really heartwarming. I'm not really an emotionally sensitive guy. I was kind of surprised about how heartwarming it was, and then the fact that I'm admitting in public that it was heartwarming tells me how awesome it really was. I think we should probably do that every year.
Thought that was pretty great. That's a good call out. I like that.
I would also like to add that there were a lot of community members that commented on the fact that we brought tradition back. And while it was hot and sweaty, all graduations in the LC gym have been hot and sweaty. We're all looking forward to air conditioning, but it was pretty special to have the bags at the back of the room for the community to put cards in again and bringing back some real special traditions that mean a lot to families here.
I believe this was the year that the kids went into COVID, so kind of a nice way to round it out for them too. All right, well, you guys, any future agenda items you'd like to talk about?
I will email everybody about the July meeting. More, like I said, more than likely I have to be on Zoom because I don't know if we're gonna have power, and if we do, we're starting on the gym. So it should be quick and easy. We'll do the organizational piece. We didn't have it on this meeting because we had to call out for legal opinions on a few things. But we'll get that, and then any hires we make. So that really should take no more than.
And the other one I wanted to just mention again is I sent the IR for that one policy. I haven't received any.
Sorry, I haven't had time to
No,
look
that's
at
fine.
it.
So I don't want to forget that
yep.
one for future items.
All right, with that, we have key dates of our next board meeting is July 25th at 7 p.m. and
The hearing.
the hearing is July 11th at 6:30. And remind me just really quick
I
again.
thought
the
you said that was
dates.
July 10th.
July 10th. Thank you. Yes, okay, let me refer. July 10th at 6:30 is our hearing. July 25th is our board meeting at 7 p.m. Can you remind us the dates of the closure again?
The closure, the school will be closed starting on Monday and will be closed through the 9th of August.
Thank you. All right, with that, we are adjourned at 2023.
All right.